For a little more on this, I want to bring in retired United States Army Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, who, of course, also served as National Security Advisor during part of President Trump's first term. H.R., great to see you. Thank you for being here. How do you assess what the president has now said regarding the apparent stopping of killing of these protesters in Iran and what the administration may be doing to convince the regime to back off?
Well, I think what you have is Iran trying to kind of run an information operation to forestall or postpone a U.S. strike against Iran. I think that, as Margaret mentioned, there are all these preparations in the region to kind of set conditions for a strike that would go after maybe some of the coercive arms of the regime. The 1,500 person strong Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, these brigades of brown shirts known as the Basij, the thugs who intimidate the population. But what we've seen is really crimes against humanity on a massive scale. As Margaret mentioned, your reports of tens of thousands of casualties, at least 10,000 people thrown into prison. They're humiliating the families of those who've fallen. When they come in to identify the bodies, they're making them pay for the bullet that killed their loved one, and then they're making them sign declarations that said this person was in the Basij. So it looks like that they were, they were regime casualties rather than innocent civilians. And so when you hear the president kind of saying that, oh, well, this was fire back and forth, this is Iranian propaganda and disinformation, and I think probably echoed by some in the United States, maybe even some in the administration, who don't want to see the United States get involved directly against Iran again, or to continue to get directly involved against Iran. So I think this is going to play out in a way where this effort to forestall or postpone further U.S. action is going to fail for a couple of reasons. We're going to get better visibility into Iran, even though they're taking down Starlink antennas and shutting down the internet completely in a way that's kind of unprecedented. What they're not going to be able to do is hide the scale of the cruelty that they've inflicted on their own people.
And operationally, the idea that you're telling people to leave that massive U.S. military base in Qatar, that you're essentially closing down or restricting access to the embassy in Saudi Arabia, when you do that, it's a tell, but it's also expensive and timely to move a lot of people around. I mean, that would signal to all of us that something could be coming, right?
Absolutely, but I do think that Iran has very limited options here. I mean, the 12-day Israeli Defense Force campaign that was conducted against Iran was extremely successful against the missile program and the nuclear program. But remember, they took out 24 generals in the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and that intelligence penetration has not gone away. So each of these individuals are being tracked. They could be struck. There are many facilities that are important to the coercive arms of the regime that could be targeted. But also, there are other actions that can be taken, Ed. I mean, some additional financial actions. This regime still needs some cash flow to do what it's doing internally and across the region. They're getting some help, but not as much as they would want from the Russians and the Chinese. The Russians, just in the last several of weeks, have delivered armored vehicles and attack helicopters to the Iranians. They're not going to use that against any other country. They're there to intimidate their own people. Remember, they've been machine gunning into crowds, Ed. I mean, it's horrible what this regime has done in these last few days. I mean, it was about 1,500 people they killed after the 2019 protests, after the murder of Masa Amini. This is many orders of magnitude larger than that.
Well, we'll see where it goes. H.R. McMaster, thank you for joining us to assess that. We could talk about all corners of the globe, but we'll leave it at Iran for today, and we'll have you back to talk about the rest. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Ed. Thank you.
All righty. Take care.